Hi, I was sorting through my comic books the other day and found some really cool covers and I thought I wanted to do something, show them to you, but try to make, a subject out of it in some way to make it more exciting. So I thought I would do today to do a top five of the most horrifying DC covers um, in my collection. So all those comic books you have lying around and you're thinking, why is this not on the list? And it's just not in my collection, or I didn't find it that horrifying. The first one on the list is an oldie, and it reminds me of my childhood. Back in the 80s, I had a friend whose father hanged himself. Um, he went for cigarettes one day, and he just never came back. A few days later, a guy with a dog found him down in the woods where we play. I'm so happy we didn't find him because that would have been just a tiny bit traumatic, but we didn't. Thank be to God. Um, the, of all the traditional ways of killing yourself, I think hanging is the worst. I don't know why. But it's really eerie and scary to me. It's always been, and that is why Dave McKean's cover for Hellraiser 16 is number five on my list. I'm sorry for the glare. It's a sunset or a sunrise. It's a start or a beginning or an end. Sorry, it's a start or a beginning. It's the same thing, right? It's the an end or a beginning. The bridge is like a huge menacing thing in the foreground. This man built golem, um, and in the bottom right of the corner, you have almost hidden. I would say it's a man, could be a woman. These days, can't like if you say it's a man, somebody's gonna destroy your career or your life or burn down your house. But I'll be brave and call it a man. It's a man hanging there from the end of a rope. I think mostly it's men who hang themselves. It's not entirely, but mostly. Um, he's hanging there like he's unimportant to the world, like he doesn't matter. And I find that very sad and very haunting because it's like his death is unimportant. Like he never really mattered to anybody. I think this cover has a lot of it has a story to tell, and it has a very haunting story to tell. Now I can't remember what's happening in this issue, but doesn't matter. The cover is really really great. I think Hellblazer 16, John Constantine Hellblazer 16, Dave McKean cover. Number five. Number four is a little bit different, but I love that cover. It's one of my favorite DC covers, so I had to like fit it in here somehow. The death of the book is coming. I'm not talking comic books, but real books. Bookstores are closing down all over, um, and books are becoming an endangered species. I'm sorry, I'm reading, but I'm trying to like not read too much. Um, Books are an endangered species, and nobody seems to give a damn. Sadly, I'm not saying reading comic books is wrong or is not good or they're very enjoyable. I love comic books, but so are books. I love books as well. People always say I don't have time to read books, but I'm thinking, like 100 years ago, people read books, and it's not like they had to work 16, 18 hours a day just to get food, but they still found the time to read books, and now we have to work, what, not that much. You have time to read books, all right? You don't do it, you don't want to. It's your predicament, but you have the time to it. I remember John Waters, whether you like him or not. I'm not really a fan, but he said, if you go home with someone and they don't have books, don't fuck them. I think that's a very wise piece of advice there, for everyone to follow. Yeah. Back in the 70s, though, books were hot. Books were not just entertainment, they were knowledge. There was no internet. So books were like where you got any information that you didn't have already. And big apes were really popular as well. I just love big apes. I don't know why. Okay, so that is why From Beyond the Unknown 23 is my pick number 4. This is the ape saying, hand over those other 2 books. When I read these 3 novels, I'll be able to conquer the world. Now he's talking about Moby Dick, Robinson Crusoe, and Treasure Island, of course. I haven't read Robinson Crusoe. I'm reading Moby Dick right now, and I've read Treasure Island. Treasure Island is a really good book. I don't like Moby Dick. It's horrible written. Anyway, back to this. There's something very, very funny about this cover, of course, but there's also something very scary about it. I don't know what it is. I think it's because the books are dying. Like, we dismiss the written word and we dismiss books. We want everything like this. We want YouTube videos to give us the knowledge that you otherwise would have to read in a book, and you want the video to be like max 10 minutes because you can't concentrate for any longer than that. And that's sad. I think it's menacing, the cover, because this ape is gonna conquer the world when he reads these 3 books. It's funny, but I just wanted to show off, here's my Moby Dick I'm reading. I'm not that far in. Boring. Treasure Island. And Robinson Crusoe. Just found them for this on the bookshelf. Okay, so this is number 4. This is scary, but also amazing. Look at the colors, the red and the yellow. The big ape, the scared woman, but she's finding the books for him, so he can like conquer the world. It's Nick Cardy who did the cover, and it's from 1973. And this is actually a VF. I think it's a little bit better, but man, I love this cover. It's funny and it's scary at the same time, and that's the best stuff. Now the next one, number 3 of most horrifying DC covers in my collection is I used to live in Ireland when I was younger. I lived there from 1990 to 1992, and I seem to remember something about PETA, P-E-T-A, and ARM. One of them, I think it was PETA, who put poison in a drink, in a lot of cans of some soda in England, and a guy died. If any of you remember anything, I can't find anything on the internet, but it's before the internet existed, so sometimes they don't. Or maybe it's just my imagination. I remember back then. I remember animal welfare was a big thing. You remember when they exposed all the lab rats and the rabbits and the cosmetic industry and how they treated animals, and that became a big thing, and people started to care, like they always do. For like, back then it was a bit longer, it was probably a few years. Now it would be a few minutes, but back then it was a few years. Everybody cared about cosmetics and animal rights and what do we use animals for, and why do we use animals? Yes. Now, what I have as number three of most horrifying DC covers in my collection is a Brian Boland cover. He had an amazing run on, not on Wonder Woman as well, but on Animal Man, and this is Animal Man 17. I have a daughter who's 15, and I mean, she cries every time I show her. She said, "Like, put it away." It is. It's horrifying. It's really, really. It's heartbreaking. Look at the Animal Man's face. That was back when Animal Man was cool. This is realism. This is heartbreaking. An excellent cover by Brian Boland. Animal Man 17. Now, number two on my list is somewhat lighter. The question of who am I has been haunting us since the beginning of time. And I think it's very important for me as well as a person, you know. We think of ourselves as a certain way or a certain person, but the truth is that we evolve all through, hopefully, all through life. You know, I'm not the same as I was when I was 20. I hope I'm a better person now. I'm wiser anyway. I hope I'm smarter and wiser. Um, I know, you know, we all like had different lives and we've done different things, and identity has been a big thing for me and for a long time. You know, um, I didn't feel like I knew who I was. I knew who I wanted to be, and I knew the reaction I got from people. So how I actually how I actually behaved, and those two didn't always like wasn't always the same thing. But the older I get, the more I'm at ease with who I am, you know, and I know I'm still working on who I am as a person, but it's changing all the time. And I think when you're in a relationship, especially at the beginning of a relationship, you're always thinking, who is, in my case, it would be, who is she? I mean, is this just a mask that she's wearing? Or is she really who she says that she is? Can I trust her? Can I give my love to this person? Because of these questions, I find this cover so absolutely enthralling. Um, Cover number two of most horrifying DC covers. A lot of people won't find it horrifying, but it's my list, so it's what I find horrifying. It's not what you find horrifying. But I remember the first time I saw it. I had a girlfriend back then, and she was she wasn't fucking around, but she was entertaining other guys. I don't know what it's called. You know, she wasn't. She was well, and we were in France, and I went into this comic book. There's an amazing comic book shop in Paris, and I was in there, and I found the cover for Green Lantern, number 69 from 1969 by Gil Kane. This one. I mean, to me, it's really, really scary the way she's peeling back her skin and she's this other person underneath. Look at her teeth. That's horrible teeth, isn't it? Like, and when she's done peeling off the mask, then who is she? Someone scary, I think. I love this cover. It's deep. I think it's, you know, it's more than just a person being another person. It's like it's about humanity and about self awareness and who am I and all that I just talked about. Um, I find this cover really deep and really, really scary for some strange reason. Number two, Gil Kane. Amazing, amazing cover. This is a fine minus. Now, number one. That's the big one. We all had, or most of us have had shitty childhoods, right? I mean, I had good times as a kid as well. You know, I have really good memories of being a child, but also not so good memories. Um, I remember something that was very controversial a few years back. It was a joke that went viral. It's called, I think, yeah. It was a sign from a bar in the U.S. and the sign in the bar said, "We like our beer like we like our violence, domestic." I think that's I think that's such a clever joke. You know, I think it's really really funny. A lot of people were saying, you know, oh, but people who's been abused or who's been confronted with or who's been, what do you call that? Who's been in an abusive domestic violence thingy are gonna feel hurt or maybe, you know, but you can't. That's life, you know. I think it's very funny. I think the sign is, and I think it's exactly what humor should be. It should take the absolute worst situation and then it should make fun of it. It should make you laugh. No, not make fun of it, sorry. It should make you laugh of the situation. And if it can do that, then you're cured, really, aren't you? From your from some of the bad things, anyway. I think it cured me in a few ways. My dad died when I was a kid. I was little. When I was 15, 14 or 15, my mom remarried. Um, and sadly, she remarried an ex-marine psychologist who was a drunk. Um, you know, it's life. He used me to as a warm up before he beat up my mom. Um, I ran away from home when I was 15. Um, it's what it is, you know. It was tragic back then and it shaped my life maybe in a bad way. I don't know, but it's history now, right? Um, I've done my share of fighting on the streets. I lived on the streets in Ireland. I fought with my hands, I fought with knives, chains, broken bottles. I've ran away from fights. I've lost a lot of fights. It all taught me a lot, you know, living on the street. Domestic violence is different from other kinds of violence, I think, because first of all, you can't run. Second, the fight is not over when you're down. And third, it's a secret. You don't tell because it's so fucking humiliating. I never told any. I told friends later, but not really. I still think it's humiliating to talk about it. Um, Here I'm just talking to myself, so it's easier. um, yeah. Anyway, um, there we're talking about when we're talking about domestic violence and about the sign, which I thought was very very funny. Um, we should also remember I've had two friends actually who has been beaten by their wives. Um, One very severely, and his wife was actually a scientist or a researcher working on. She's a prominent researcher in Denmark on violence. Funny enough, the other guy is it was more psychological beat up, but yeah, I've had friends who had wives who just controlled their lives like they couldn't. I had a friend I didn't see him for like 15 years because he couldn't leave his house because his wife just wouldn't give him permission to leave the house. That is a different type of domestic violence, but it doesn't leave scars, so it's harder to prove, and it's harder to talk about. It's easier to just show a picture of someone who's beaten up and say this is horrible, and of course it is. I remember when I ran away from home, but sometimes I met my mom and she was beaten up, and I didn't know what to do back then. I was young. I was just trying to save myself. I wasn't thinking about saving my mom as well. Plus, I was out. She was still in it. As the world or God or whatever wills it, the guy killed himself. So she got out as well, and she's good today. She's fine. My mom is tough. She's really tough. She's 74 years old and she's still working full time as a nurse. She's made of really, really strong stuff. So, but I wanted to talk about domestic violence, because the cover that's number one on my most haunting DC covers has to do with that. To me, I don't think it's in the book or anything. I don't care. It's what I see on the cover that matters. And I just wanted, to share that. First of all, I think I'm allowed to laugh at the joke, because you're all allowed to laugh at the joke, the sign in the bar. As far as I'm concerned, you're all allowed to find it very funny. Just anybody giving me grief for finding it funny and talking about it, all these poor domestic violence victims, yeah, I'm one of them. I'm still finding it really, really funny because it's a good joke. Doesn't matter, and for me, it relieves a bit of the burden. The cross. The joke is doing that. It's I can see the sign and I can read it and I can laugh and I can think. It's there's a lot of us out there, sadly, but and we're all here and we can all laugh at this. So we got stronger. We got through this. I think that's funny. That's just me. All right, number one on my list is the cover for Spectre 55, Volume 3. It's by Jin Ha. I'm not really sure that I'm pronouncing that name right. And I'm sorry for the glare. This is it. I like the Spectre, especially the old one, Jim Aparo. I think isn't his name Jim Aparo, who did the artwork back then. Anyway, back to this cover. It's the peeking through the door that I like. It gives the image an aura of entering a personal space. It's the woman's arm. She's still fighting, but it's a losing battle. And it's the look on the guy's face. He's in utter control, or he was a mere second ago. And I guess the Spectre, so perfectly depicted by Jin Ha here, is the mysterious savior that all domestic violence victims so desperately hope for, especially in that precise moment. Now, you could argue that this is on an asylum or hospital because the guy's dressed in white. Could be. But it could be just he got home from work. Doesn't really matter. I find it very eerie, very unnerving. And the look on the guy's face is just brilliant. Look, he's so much in control. And then there's one single thing. He's just about to finish the bitch off, and then, oh shit, something happens. And for her, it might not be too late. I like it. I think this is really, really scary, but also, I guess, full of hope. The Spectre is scary. But as I but as a cover, it's amazing. You know, sometimes you catch those moments as a cover artist, and I really like, for example, totally different subject almost, Arthur Adams. Mostly he's doing Marvel covers. He's not very good cover artist though. I like his pen, but or his the way he draws. But he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that extra thing to it like this one has. It's more than just a drawing. It's a feeling. It's scary. It's yeah. I like that, and they all have that. This one as well. My number 4. Brian Bolland's. Whew. Poor little monkey. The big ape. Taking over the world. And the Hangman from Hellblazer. Alright, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to do a much lighter video on the 5 most romantic DC covers. I'm choosing DC because I'm building some new boxes for my comics, and I don't have that many DC. I have more Marvel. So I did the boxes for the DC first. I put them in there because they could all be in the boxes. And so I'm gonna rummage through my the rest of my DC and find 5 most romantic DC covers. I just wanted, spin it a little bit. This has been 5 most haunting DC covers. I hope you enjoyed it. No keys. As you know, I don't give a fuck about keys. Alright? I don't care. It's not important to me. What's important to me is the story and the art and the comic book. Take care. Cheers. Bye.